Harvard Law professor Laurence Lessig has announced that he is officially running for president. Take a look.
I think I'm running to get people to acknowledge the elephant in the room, right? We have to recognize we have a government that does not work. The stalemate partisan platform of American politics in Washington right now doesn't work. And we have to find a way to elevate the debate, to focus on the changes that would actually get us a government that could work again, that is not captured by the tiniest fraction of the 1% who fund campaigns and make it impossible for our government to do anything.
So that's campaign finance reform, voting rights reform?
And also dealing with a crazy way we have political gerrymandering where politicians pick the voters rather than the voters pick the politicians.
So now Larry Lessig was only going to run if he could reach a 1-month fundraising goal of $1 million. Now, obviously, he did reach that. So now this campaign is very unorthodox. Now, here are the details. So first and foremost, Larry Lessig would run as the country's first ever referendum candidate. Now, what this means is that he would only serve as president only as long as it takes to pass the Citizens Equality Act of 2017. I'll get to that in a minute. Lessig would use that mandate to get Congress to pass the Citizens Equality Act. Now, once this package is passed, Larry Lessig would step down and the vice president would become president. So in short, what the Citizens Equality Act of 2017 is it guarantees the freedom to vote, ends partisan gerrymandering, and funds campaigns in a way that would give us a Congress free to lead. Now, Vox explains, his idea is that focusing the presidential race on just one issue would essentially turn it into a referendum on his proposed reform bill. Members of Congress would be forced to take a position on it, and if he wins, it will make it unmistakably clear to them that the public has endorsed his reforms, he thinks. That's why Lessig is unsatisfied with the campaign of Bernie Sanders, another outsider candidate who supports major campaign finance reform. He thinks Sanders is focusing on too many different issues, which will make it easy for Congress to block his proposals once he's in office. Now, full disclosure, I really like Larry Lessig. I think that by doing this, he's going to, in effect, force all of the Democratic candidates to take a really strong stand when it comes to what they would do to actually get campaign finance reform. Because Bernie Sanders is in favor of publicly funded elections, much like Larry Lessig, but the problem is that he hasn't actually proposed a really strong solution to get that goal passed. He has stated that he would only appoint Supreme Court justices that would overturn Citizens United, but that's not enough. What really needs to be done is you need a really strong plan to actually get publicly funded elections. So now Lawrence's campaign puts pressure on Sanders and even Clinton to actually come up with a real plan, be it a bill or a constitutional amendment, to get publicly funded elections and eliminate money in politics. So now I do think that there is a fatal error in Larry Lessig's campaign. Let's say hypothetically that he actually does get Congress to miraculously pass the Citizens Equality Act of 2017. Well, the problem is that it could be struck down by the Supreme Court. Now, this is a likely scenario because if you think that one of the conservative Supreme Court justices would step down before this legislation gets struck down, you're horribly mistaken. So unless he tries to pass a constitutional amendment, it will most likely be challenged almost immediately and ultimately struck down by the Supreme Court based on previous precedent from cases such as McCutcheon, Citizens United, Bucky v. Vallejo. Now, furthermore, although I like the idea of having more candidates, Laurence Lessig will be taking away votes directly from Bernie Sanders, so you have to take that into consideration as well. So what can Larry Lessig do to convince me, a Bernie Sanders supporter, to jump ship? Well, it's actually pretty easy because I really like Larry Lessig. What you got to do is, one, drop the referendum idea because I think that it's so unorthodox that voters probably won't take well to it. And two, propose an actual constitutional amendment, not a bill, because if you propose a bill, you can get it passed, and then it could be struck down, and all that was for nothing. I want actual campaign finance reform that's going to stick, and the best way to do that is to codify it into the Constitution. The bottom line is that unless you get money out of politics first, well, you're going to have a hell of a time passing any other policy proposal. So he's right to prioritize this issue, but the problem is that if you're basing your entire campaign off of a mandate, well, then go for a constitutional amendment instead of the bill. If you're able to galvanize the public enough to get them to vote for you specifically just to get money out of politics, then I'm pretty sure they would be willing to accept a constitutional amendment as opposed to a bill. Now, I think that it seems rather naive to say that Congress and the Supreme Court will be like, oh, well, you know what? we have to listen to President Lessig because he has a mandate. No. That's ludicrous. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that his view is relatively naive. And I hate to say that because I really like Larry Lessig, but I just don't think it's going to work. And I think that his plan to run as a referendum candidate is so unorthodox that it's not going to bode very well with voters.